This week, we focus on the West as the Union fights for control of the Mississippi. First thing this week is the Battle of Arkansas Post. Last year ended on the Mississippi with Major General William T. Sherman failing at the Battle of Chickasaw Bayou. His superior, Major General Ulysses S. Grant, has experienced setbacks in this Vicksburg campaign. He needs to secure the area more. Raids from the Confederate-held Fort Hindman at Arkansas Post have been successful in holding back the Union by striking valuable supply ships. Arkansas Post is out of the way, but it must be taken. Major General John A. McClellan is given control of two corps, one being under Major General Sherman, the 15th Corps, and the 13th Corps under Brigadier General George W. Morgan. These two corps have two divisions each and will be traveling on the Mississippi Squadron under Acting Rear Admiral David D. Porter. 30,000 men, 1,000 cavalry, 40 cannons. The Confederates are only 5,000 strong and under Brigadier General Thomas J. Churchill. On the 9th, General Churchill sends forward Colonel Garland's brigade to deal with the oncoming Union forces. The Union has 50 troop transports and 9 warships. These warships opened fire on Garland. At 5 p.m., McClellan begins to offload his men, which brings us to the 10th, 11 a.m. The Union has unloaded enough men. Sherman is supposed to flank the enemy as Brigadier General Morgan holds the Confederates down. Sherman's corps is redirected as Brigadier General Stewart's division is moved to develop more quickly. And Brigadier General Steele had to fall back. His path was blocked by swamps. Rear Admiral Porter moves his ships in close to open fire on the Confederates' positions, bringing his 3 ironclads directly against Churchill's rifle pits. The Confederates withdraw to their inner lines. Stuart occupies the enemy's position and sends out a brigade to press the enemy harder. The rest of McClellan's force get in position, forcing the enemy back to their final defense, Fort Hindman. At 5:30 p.m., McClellan tells Porter the final offensive is ready. But he is 3.5 hours late. The 3 ironclads, the USS Baron de Kalb, the USS Louisville, and the USS Cincinnati, are each given a heavy gun to focus on. They are aided by the USS Lexington and USS Black Hawk, which are very effective. Churchill's heavy guns are unable to effectively return fire, and unable to withdraw because many of the horses are killed outright. Porter sends forward the USS Rattler to run the batteries and fire from the other side. Unfortunately, it gets struck by Churchill's guns. They can't beat ironclads, but the Rattler is a normal steamer. As the battle ends, because of night, General Churchill gets a company of Texans and a letter from Lieutenant General Theophilus Holmes. Hold out till help arrived or all dead. That brings us to the 11th of January, 1863. The Confederates finish up their defenses, but are soon pressed by Brigadier General Charles E. Hovey brigade from Brigadier General Frederick Steele's division. This surrounds the Confederate battle line, but his advance is checked by Churchill's reinforcements, with the Texan company holding a gap in the line. Further regiments and cannons are sent into the fray, but Hovey is soon reinforced by Brigadier General John Thayer, who brings his brigade to protect Hovey's left flank. Major General William Sherman sends forward his brigades against the rebels, and is soon aided by the 13th Corps. He pushes them hard and deploys his artillery, successfully engaging with the Confederate guns. At 1 p.m., Admiral Porter moves in with his ships and begins the bombardment of Fort Hindman. It's very effective, and General Sherman begins his advance early. Hovey's brigade is still in the battle and has been dueling with the reinforced Confederate line, holding but not moving forward. The 17th Missouri stabilizes the battle, and Ohio regiments break the enemy's artillery. Thayer's brigade is stalled, but Hovey switches up his line and pushes again. But the Confederates hold despite being on the back foot. Colonel Gallo Smith from General Stewart's division pushes the Confederates hard, forcing the enemy back into the fort, and wait, preparing to storm the position. Brigadier General Andrew J. Smith sends in his 2 brigades to clear the area and gets ready to storm the enemy. One regiment gets too excited, and the 120th Ohio tries to storm the fort alone, but is forced back. Rear Admiral Porter begins the final bombardment and slips 3 ships behind the fort for encircling the Confederate positions. The white flag is flown. Colonel Garland surrenders his brigade. Other Confederates are more confused if they are surrendering, with some including General Churchill saying that no order to surrender was given. But after a lot of talking, the Confederates do in fact surrender. All of the 5,000 Confederate defenders become casualties. McLaren suffered 1,061 casualties and Porter 31 for 1,092 total. The Arkansas post is captured, and Major General Ulysses S. Grant can continue on to Vicksburg proper. Hopefully.
Glorious, glorious, my stars ever in the ascendant.
Although, Grant never wanted Arkansas post taken. He found it too far a distraction. Yes, he knows he needs to clean the area, but Arkansas post is well in Arkansas. And that isn't his target. General Grant is later convinced of the worth of seizing a Confederate position, but he is pissed and takes further control of the army. Then we go to Missouri for the Battle of Hartville, around there. Brigadier General John S. Marmaduke failed at the Battle of Springfield, but he hasn't given up yet. He has moved towards Hartville, which he captured on the 9th. On the 10th, Colonel Samuel Merrill of the Union moves towards Hartville with his column of around 750 men against Marmaduke's force. On the 11th, skirmishing begins. Marmaduke sends out 2 brigades under Colonel Joseph O. Shelby and Colonel Joseph C. Porter, which is to assault the flanks of Merrill. This gives Merrill time to move into Hartville and take the high ground. For 4 hours, Merrill repulses assault after assault against the charging Confederates. At night, Merrill withdraws, claiming victory. Marmaduke also claims victory. Marmaduke held the field, right? Sure, but he suffered more casualties. 12 killed, 96 wounded, 3 missing or captured for a total of 111. Against the Union, 7 killed, 64 wounded, and 7 missing or captured for a total of 78. And Marmaduke lost Colonel Emmett McDonald and Colonel Joseph C. Porter. Well, Porter is only mortally wounded, but still. Marmaduke limps back to Arkansas, content in the knowledge that he freaked out the Union, which he did pretty well. The Union supply artery of Missouri is vulnerable, and there's a scramble in the logistics part of the army to secure the vital pathways of the state. The final thing on the 11th is action off Galveston. Last week, Galveston was recaptured by the Confederacy, but a majority of the Union Navy stationed at the Texan town was able to escape. The blockade of the southern coast has not let up, and 6 Union naval vessels patrolling the area when they see something. A sail. The USS Hatteras is sent to chase after it. The Hatteras is a Union iron-hulled steamer, 4 32-pounder guns and 1 20-pounder gun. It finally reaches the sail after 20 miles of chasing and demands it be identified. The HMS Spitfire? What? Captain Homer C. Blake of the Hatteras prepares to board the Spitfire. Why would a small British tug be all the way over at the coast of Texas when the Confederate flag is unfurled?
We're the CSS Alabama.
And the Hatteras is hit by broadside fire. The CSS Alabama has 6 32-pounder guns, 1 68-pounder gun, and a 110-pounder. This better armament breaks the USS Hatteras early, making the return fire underwhelming. For a quarter of an hour, the 2 ships duel. Exciting Captain Raphael Seams of the Alabama. But the Hatteras has to relent, firing a signal. They lost. The ship is sinking also. The Alabama prepares small naval vessels to pick up the Union sailors. In the end, it was relatively bloodless. 2 Union sailors died, 5 were wounded, 118 captured, and the rest escaped. The Confederates suffered 2 wounded. Their ship was also wounded. But despite many hull shots, it's fully able to sail somehow. The CSS Alabama escapes further pursuit. The U.S. blockade goes on with just 1 more ship to worry about and 1 less to fight with. And then cleanup. General Order Number 11. On the 3rd of January, Caesar Caskell, the man who sent the telegram to Lincoln, first warning him of the entire ordeal, arrives in D.C. After meeting with some Republican politicians, he gets a meeting with the president, where he shows him the order. President Lincoln is horrified and orders General Henry Halleck to have General Grant rescind the damn thing.
A paper purporting to be General Orders Number 11, issued by you December 17th, has been presented here. By its terms, it expels all Jews from your department. If such an order has been issued, it will be immediately revoked.
Grant rescinding the order is merely symbolic, with Lincoln's countermanding it the very next day. On the 6th, Rabbi Isaac Mayer Wise of the Reform Movement thanks Lincoln. Thanks Lincoln for taking care of the blatantly unconstitutional matter.
To condemn a class is, to say the least, to wrong the good with the bad.
Lincoln promises to treat every American, regardless of religion, the same. Grant, doing some time traveling, rescinds the order on the 17th. Thoroughly embarrassed not only because of his rebuke by higher-ups, unconstitutional act being very publicly pointed out, but also because he doesn't know exactly what a Jew is. Then there is Sickles. Not much to report this week, as he is unknowingly waiting for Burnside to fall, but in addition to performing his divisional commander duties, he meets with the new triumvirate: Major General Joseph Hooker, Grand Divisional Commander, military man, and a rising star in the officer corps, Major General Daniel Butterfield, a man with no previous military experience before the war, but he has won over the papers with his bravery so far in it, and Brigadier General Daniel Sickles, the up-and-coming Caesar of the group, a politician who left behind that corrupt world and brings the benefits of a connected man to them. What will become of these three? Well, only time will tell. That's where the week ends. With a Union success in the vicinity of Vicksburg. This is very good. Because after Chickasaw Bayou, Grant was losing credibility, and with those Van Dorn raids striking his supply lines, it would be hard to get the victory he needs to stay politically alive in the military. Never mind, it's not his victory. He's in charge. He can get some of the credit. In Missouri, Marmaduke being repulsed secures the supply lines of the state further, aiding Grant's Vicksburg expedition. And with the Army of the Potomac suffering infighting and Major General Rosecrans being unwilling to move forward, the Army of the Tennessee might be the only action we see for a while. After nearly 3 months of nonstop action, the war has worn out its soldiers and its reporters. As we head into next week, it becomes more and more apparent that this war is going to be dragged out for a long time. Hello, it's the Civil War Week by Week team here. Thank you for staying to the end of the video. I'm glad to now have finished cleaning up my, admittedly, inability to keep track of things, with finally General Order number 11 being done with. I would like to thank everyone who has stayed with me this entire time, my 4 patrons whose names you already saw. They really are the people who, help keep this thing going. You should now be seeing a place to subscribe, a place to watch a single video, or a place to watch a playlist. I recommend clicking on one of the 3s, or if you're one of the select few, all 3. I hope to see you next week.